sophisticated camera from inside his Mao jacket and photographed everything and everyone until the final barrel had been lowered into the hold and the only remaining truck was about to be driven away. Turning silently, he hid the camera inside his jacket and crab-walked away from the brilliant lights until he was wrapped again in darkness. He arose and padded across the wood planks from storage box to shed, seeking whatever protection he could find as he headed back toward the road that would return him to the city. A warm night wind whistled above his head, carrying the heavy scent of the muddy river. He did not notice. He was exultant because he would be returning with important information. He was also nervous. These people were not to be taken lightly. By the time he heard footsteps, he was nearing the end of the wharf where it met the land, almost safe. The large man with the unusual red and white hair had been quietly closing in, taking a parallel path among the various supply and work sheds. Calm and deliberate, he saw his target tense, pause, and suddenly hurry. The man glanced quickly around. To his left was the lost part of the dock where storage and seagulls found their haven, while on the right was a pathway kept open for trucks and other vehicles to go back and forth to the loading areas. The last truck was behind him, heading this way, toward land. Its headlights were funnels in the night. It would pass soon. As his prey darted behind a tall pile of ropes on the far left, the man pulled out his garrote and sprinted. Before the prey could turn, the man dropped the thin cord around his neck, yanked, and tightened. For a long minute, the victim's hands clawed, his shoulders twisted in agony, his body thrashed. At last, his arms fell limp, and his head lolled forward. As the truck passed on the right, the wood dock shuddered. Hidden behind the mountain of ropes, the killer lowered the corpse to the planks. He released the garrote and searched the dead man's clothes until he found the camera. Without hurrying, he walked back and retrieved two of the enormous cargo hooks. He knelt by the corpse, used the knife from the holster on his calf to slash open the belly, buried the points of the iron hooks inside, and sealed them there by winding rope around the man's middle. With alternating feet, he rolled him off into the dark water. The body made a quiet splash and sank. Now it would not float up. He walked toward the last truck, which had paused as ordered, waiting, and climbed aboard. As the truck sped away toward the city, the Dowager Empress hauled up her gangway and let go her lines. A tug towed her out into the Huangpu, where she turned down river for the short journey to the Yangtze and finally the open sea. Part 1. Chapter 1. Tuesday, September 12th, Washington, D.C. There was a saying in Washington that lawyers ran the government, but spies ran the lawyers. The city was cobwebbed with intelligence agencies, everything from the legendary CIA and FBI, and the little-known NRO, to alphabet groups in all branches of the military and government, even in the illustrious departments of state and justice. Too many, in the opinion of President Samuel Adams Castilla, and too public. Rivalries were notoriously a problem. Sharing information that inadvertently included misinformation was a bigger problem. Then there was the dangerous sluggishness of so many bureaucracies. The president was worrying about this and a brewing international crisis as his black Lincoln town car cruised along a narrow back road on the northern bank of the Anacostia River. Its motor was a quiet hum, and its tinted windows opaque. The car rolled past tangled woods and the usual lighted marinas until it finally rattled over the rusted tracks of a rail spur, where it turned right into a busy marina that was completely fenced. The sign read, Anacostia Seagoing Yacht Club, private members only. The yacht club appeared identical to all the others that lined the river east of the Washington Navy Yard. It was an hour before midnight. Only a few miles above the Anacostia's confluence with the broad Potomac, The marina moored big, open-water power cruisers and long-distance sailing boats, as well as the usual weekend pleasure craft. President Castilla gazed out his window at the piers, which jutted out into the dusky water. At several, a number of salt-encrusted ocean-going yachts were just docking. Their crews still wore foul-weather gear. He saw that there were also 5 frame buildings of varying sizes on the grounds. The layout was exactly what had been described to him. The Lincoln glided to a halt behind the largest of the lighted buildings, out of sight of the piers and hidden from the road by the thick woods. 4 of the men riding in the Lincoln with him, all wearing business suits and carrying mini-submachine guns, swiftly stepped out and formed a perimeter around the car. They adjusted their night vision goggles as they scanned the darkness. Finally, one of the 4 turned back toward the Lincoln and gave a sharp nod. The 5th man, who had been sitting beside the president, also wore a dark business suit, but he carried a 9mm Sig Sauer. In response to the signal, the president handed him a key, and he hurried from the car to a barely visible side door in the building. He inserted the key into a hidden lock and swung the door open. He turned and spread his feet, weapon poised. At that point, the car door that was closest to the building opened. The night air was cool and crisp, tainted with the stench of diesel. The president emerged into it, a tall, heavy-set man, wearing chino slacks and a casual sport jacket. For such a big man, he moved swiftly as he entered the building. The 5th guard gave a final glance around and followed with 2 of the 4 others. The remaining pair took stations, protecting the Lincoln and the side door. Nathaniel Frederick Fred Klein, the rumpled chief of Covert-One, sat behind a cluttered metal desk in his compact office inside the Marina building. This was the new Covert-One Nerve Center. In the beginning, just 4 years ago, Covert-One had no formal organization or bureaucracy, no real headquarters, and no official operatives. It had been loosely composed of professional experts in many fields, all with clandestine experience, most with military backgrounds, and all essentially unencumbered, without family, home ties, or obligations, either temporary or permanent. But now that 3 major international crises had stretched the resources of the elite cadre to the limits, the president had decided his ultra-secret agency needed more personnel and a permanent base far from the radar screens of Pennsylvania Avenue, the Hill, or the Pentagon. The result was this private yacht club. It had the right elements for clandestine work. It was open and active 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with intermittent but steady traffic from both land and water that followed no pattern. Near the road and the rail spur, but still on the grounds, was a helipad that looked more like a weed-infested field. The latest electronic communications had been installed throughout the base, and the security was nearly invisible, but of cutting-edge quality. Not even a dragonfly could cross the periphery without one of the sensors picking it up. Alone in his office, the sounds of his small nighttime staff muted beyond his door, Klein closed his eyes and rubbed the bridge of his longish nose. His wire-rimmed glasses rested on the desk. Tonight, he looked every one of his 60 years. Since he had accepted the job of heading Covert-One, he had aged. His enigmatic face was riven with new creases, and his hairline had receded an inch. Another problem was on the verge of erupting. As his headache lessened, he sat back, opened his eyes, put his glasses back on, and resumed puffing on his ever-present pipe. The room filled with billows of smoke that disappeared almost as soon as he produced them, sucked out by a powerful ventilating system installed specifically for the purpose. A file folder lay open on his desk, but he did not look at it. Instead, he smoked, tapped his foot, and glanced at the ship's clock on his wall every few seconds. At last, a door to his left, beneath the clock, opened, and a man with a Sig Sauer strode across the office to the outer door, locked it, and turned to stand with his back against it. Seconds later, the president entered. He sat on a high-backed leather chair across the desk from Klein. "Thanks, Barney," he told the guard. "I'll let you know if I need you." "But, Mr. President—" "You can go," he ordered firmly. "Wait outside. This is a private conversation between two old friends." That was partly true. He and Fred Klein had known each other since college days. The guard slowly recrossed the office and left, each step radiating reluctance. As the door closed, Klein blew a stream of smoke. "I would have come to you as usual, Mr. President." "No." Sam Castilla shook his head. His titanium glasses reflected the overhead light with a sharp flash. "Until you tell me exactly what we're facing with this Chinese freighter. The Dowager Empress, right? This one stays between us and those of your agents you need to work on it." "The leaks are that bad?" "Worse," the president said. "The White House has turned into a sieve. I've never seen anything like it. Until my people can find the source, I'll meet you here." His rangy face was deeply worried. "You think we have another Yin-Yi?" Klein's mind was instantly transported back. It was 1993, and a nasty international incident was about to erupt, with America the big loser. A Chinese cargo ship, the Yin-Yi, had sailed from China for Iran. U.S. intelligence received reports the ship was carrying chemicals that could be used to make weapons. After trying the usual diplomatic channels and failing, President Bill Clinton ordered the U.S. Navy to chase the ship, refusing to let it land anywhere until some sort of resolution could be found. An outraged China denied the accusations. Prominent world leaders jawboned. Allies made charges and countercharges, and media around the globe covered the standoff with banner headlines. The stalemate went on for an interminable 20 days. When China finally began to noisily rattle its sabers, the U.S. Navy forced the ship to stop on the high seas, and inspectors boarded the Yin-Yi. To America's great embarrassment, they uncovered only agricultural equipment, plows, shovels, and small tractors. The intelligence had been faulty. With a grimace, Klein recalled it all too well. The episode made America look like a thug. Its relations with China, and even its allies, were strained for years. He puffed gloomily, fanning the smoke away from the president. "Do we have another Yin-Yi?" he repeated. "Maybe. There's maybe remotely and maybe probably. You better tell me all of it, chapter and verse." Klein tamped down the ash in his pipe. "One of our operatives is a professional sinologist who's been working in Shanghai the past 10 years for a consortium of American firms that are trying to get a foothold there. His name's Avery Mondragon. He's alerted us to information he's uncovered that the Dowager Empress is carrying tens of tons of thiodiglycol, used in blister weapons, and thionyl chloride, used in both blister and nerve weapons. The freighter was loaded in Shanghai, is already at sea, and is destined for Iraq. Both chemicals have legitimate agricultural uses, of course, but not in such large quantities for a nation the size of Iraq." "How good is the information this time, Fred? 100%? 90? "I haven't seen it," Klein said evenly, puffing a cloud of smoke and forgetting to wave it away this time. "But Mondragon says it's documentary. He has the ship's true invoice manifest." Great God. Castilla's thick shoulders and heavy torso seemed to go rigid against his chair. "I don't know whether you realize it, but China is one of the signatories of the international agreement that prohibits development, production, stockpiling, or use of chemical weapons. They won't let themselves be revealed as breaking that treaty, because it could slow their march to acquiring a bigger and bigger slice of the global economy. It's a damn delicate situation. The price of another mistake on our part could be particularly high for us, too, now that they're close to signing our human rights treaty." In exchange for financial and trade concessions from the U.S., for which the president had cajoled and arm-twisted a reluctant Congress, China had all but committed to signing a bilateral human rights agreement that would open its prisons and criminal courts to UN and U.S. inspectors, bring its criminal and civil courts closer to Western